to the Birdhouse Dynasty Show. Good morning. And we have our week 3 takeaways and week 4 preview of the 2025 NFL season. So it was a wild week 3. We had some injuries, some poor performances, and then some great plays and also some great performances. But we want to discuss what happened in week 3 and what kind of big changes developed heading into week 4 now of this NFL season, and how you can manipulate the market with that to your advantage in your dynasty leagues. Yes, so obviously we can start right off the rip with the terrible performance of Russell Wilson. Oof, that was rough. To have the NFL put us through that performance on Sunday night with the Chiefs at the Giants as the Sunday night game was just terrible. And what it leads to now is Jackson Dart, the rookie quarterback out of Ole Miss, getting the start in week 4 for Brian Dable and the Giants. So Jackson Dart's somebody that the majority of us picked in either the late first or early second. I was taking him late first wherever I could. I love the talent, the arm, the little running ability. Reminds me a lot of Justin Herbert, Trevor Lawrence, what they were talked about coming out. So the arm talent is there. He's going to have Malik Neighbors. He's got Wandell Robinson, and now Cam Scatterbo looks decent. So there's somewhat of a supporting cast here now in New York, do we want to say? I don't know. I like it. I'm excited for the fact that he's playing. But at the same time, he's going up against the Chargers and Jim Harbaugh now. And that scares the shit out of me. He looked great in preseason, no doubt. But if you bought him for that, even if you got him for that late first price, and you are a contender, don't depend on Jackson Dart. You can flip him now for a more seasoned veteran quarterback that you can get the points for. You might even be able to get something on top of Dak Prescott. You could now finagle your way into a Bo Nix, Justin Herbert, that range of quarterback. It all depends on your league market and what teams are willing to trade away their top end quarterbacks. Like who is 0-3, who is 1-2 in your league and not looking good, or who's 1-5 in your leagues with medians, who's 0-6. Those are the teams that would have no problem taking on somebody like Jackson Dart, who it doesn't matter if he does poorly against the Chargers, right? It's fine that they didn't wait for the gimme game against the Saints next week. I actually kind of think it's a stroke of genius for Brian Dable, because now he's going up against the Chargers in his first start. He can't lose, right? If he plays poorly, well, he's going up against the Chargers. If he smashes, well, awesome, right? If his first game was against the Saints next week, well, he'd be expected to go out and play well and win that game. If he wouldn't, in his first start, beat the Saints and their putrid excuse for an organization right now, all right, fine. I'm a little biased there. The Saints are struggling, but that would have been the ideal start for Jackson Dart, you would have thought. I actually do like it. They're throwing him into the fire, and let's see what we got. Now, it might not be the best for Jackson Dart in his career, but the fact is the kid's in the NFL now, all right? So you got to go out there and play against the best and see where you're at. So I like it. Now, if you're a rebuilder, no reason to flip Dart yet. Okay, let him play a couple games and see if he bumps himself up to, being worth a first and a second or two firsts even, right? That's the idea of rebuilding. You're just trying to accumulate value. I guess it depends on your stage of the rebuild. If you're in step two, I like to call it. There's step one of the rebuild, which is where you're tearing it all down to the bones. Okay, sometimes you're just retooling, and so you're actually starting your rebuild at step two already, which means that you're not just trying to accumulate value anymore. You're actually trying to assemble a lineup, and it's okay if you don't end up with the number one pick in this step of the process. It's okay if you end up, squeaking into the playoffs if your league has like 7 teams in the playoffs instead of just 6, right? It's all right that you do that and end up middle of the pack, and then you're looking good going into next season. I know a lot of people try and say, "Oh, you don't want to fit either. You want to finish on top or at the bottom," right? Yeah, that's not necessarily the truth. It depends on your league dynamics, and sometimes other teams are already loaded up with the previous year's draft, right? So then you start looking towards accumulating first in the following year's draft. All right, that's what happens in some leagues. I had one where that was the case. Like I had to load up with picks in the 25 draft because I started it in 24, but because somebody had already accumulated so many picks in the 24 draft, it wasn't worth it for me to try and fight for more picks in that 24 draft. I was able to buy picks 2 years out for cheaper than the current year, upcoming year's draft picks. So if that makes sense to you, what actually is happening now is a lot of 26 and 27 firsts are getting thrown around. Okay, people are being really loose with those picks. And that brings me to our next guy that we want to chat about today. And he is probably the hottest running back out there on the market right now, and that's Trey Benson of the Arizona Cardinals. So Trey Benson was drafted out of Florida State 2 years ago. Most leagues, it was just like Dart, late first, early second, where Trey Benson was taken, and he was selected by most of us and being seen as the heir apparent to James Conner. Then James Conner happened, and last year James Conner was the absolute bell cow in Arizona for a pretty decent offense, actually. A lot of people think of Arizona and it's like, I don't know. Well, as far as running backs go in Arizona, you know what you're getting. Like, they hammer one guy and one guy alone. Like Trey Benson, yes, this year to start was getting a little bit more action than last season, but not really. Now, though, with James Conner's ankle injury, it is full gas down for Trey Benson. And so you want to kick the tires in your league on Trey Benson just to make sure that the current owner actually knows what they have in their back pocket. Now, some Trey Benson owners may have Trey Benson as their 5th or 6th running back on their roster, and they'd have no problem just taking on a first for Trey Benson. Somebody that you could definitely use. I think Trey Benson is a solid running back too for the rest of the season now, just based on volume alone. Like, he is right there in the mix with Chuba Hubbard, Brees Hall. I like him more than DeAndre Swift. Right in that RB 15 to 20 range, okay? With the potential to do more. Because again, the volume is so extreme in Arizona. I don't know how much Amari DeMarcado is going to be getting the ball. Bam Knight. I mean, what are we talking about here? This is the dude that Arizona drafted in the 2nd round. a 4'3", 6 foot, 220-pound running back. Like, he is, you build a running back in a lab, and this is pretty much what you come out with, okay? Yes, if it's to send them for, to save the human race, we're building Derrick Henry. But if you're building your normal size running back in today's game that can catch the ball, that can block out of the backfield, that can do pretty much everything, you come out of it with a prototype like Trey Benson. And so if your league mate, like, we've seen trades, go over to Dynasty Day, you can see some of the trades. Trey Benson still went for a second in some leagues. Okay, that's ridiculous. Now, again, it comes down to who actually owns Trey Benson in your league. Some leagues, the Trey Benson owner won't even consider a first and a second, right? It all depends on who owns him. Some guys drafted him too early last year, have been sitting on him for a whole season, and now they're thinking they struck gold, which they may have, but they're not going to be somebody that you're going to want to try and trade for Trey Benson from. It's the teams where either they're in the bare bones process of their rebuild, okay? They don't want running backs on their roster, all right? So they're going to be willing to take on a first, regardless if it's a late first next season. They just want to get the points off of their roster. Now, you may have somebody who's in the middle of their rebuild. They're probably not going to be a team that's willing to get rid of him necessarily. It all depends. You could finagle a package where they like what they're getting on the other side. The fact is that he's hot and he's ready to go. He's very liquid, okay? If you go over to Keep Trade Cut, they have a liquidity chart down at the bottom, and you can see how last week Jake Browning was literally a 99 in liquidity because he was just being flipped everywhere, right? The Joe Burrow owners wanted him. They'd take him for a second or 2/3. They were hot and heavy. After Jake Browning, not so much this week after a 6-point performance and a loss. More than a loss. That was an ass whooping by the Minnesota Vikings. Now, Jake Browning could definitely bounce back this week. So I actually kind of don't mind buying Jake Browning. I mean, he's a good backup quarterback, all right? He had a bad performance last week. That can be overcome. It's the NFL. It's a week-to-week ball game. The Cleveland Browns came back and beat the Green Bay Packers last week. Nobody thought that was going to happen. The Packers literally had the most money ever bet on the money line last week. The Green Bay Packers at Cleveland in a Week 3 matchup was that heavily thought of as a sure thing. The Packers winning in Cleveland. And they were in control of that game for over 3 quarters. But it slipped away from them because they didn't put them away. And that can happen just like that in fantasy. Just like that, Joe Burrow goes down. And your once thought of paper champions back in July now is in shambles because you had a Joe Burrow and J.J. McCarthy quarterback room. And now you're looking at Jake Browning and Carson Wentz to lead you to victory this week. Well, yes, that's my 2 QB, 2 tight end league quarterback room. Yes. Now, if I had somebody like who we're going to talk about next, then I wouldn't have that problem. And that, yes, we're going to slide over to the Indianapolis Colts and bring up Daniel Jones, even though I just eliminated him. There we go. There's Daniel Jones. All right. My boy Daniel Jones. I loved this guy in startup drafts this offseason. Oh, my God. I have never been a supporter of Anthony Richardson from the get-go. And when I saw Daniel Jones sign there, woo-wee, I was able to pawn a third off of somebody just by Daniel Jones getting the week 1 start this year? All right, so Daniel Jones, enough love. This week he goes to LA to take on the Rams, and we'll see what he's really made of. I'm telling you right now, I'm predicting if Daniel Jones goes into LA and wins this game with a solid performance, he doesn't have to light it up, but a solid 200 yards, 1 or 2 touchdowns, and they come out of there with a victory. I'm guessing Daniel Jones will probably head into week 5, maybe week 6, with a new contract, either a 2-year, $80 million deal or one similar to what Baker and Sam Darnold got, which was basically a 3-year, $100 million deal. Daniel Jones, he's okay. He's not Patrick Mahomes. He's not Josh Allen, not Lamar Jackson, but his talent level, he doesn't have the cannon of Justin Herbert, but dude, how much different really is he than Brock Purdy, okay? And we've had Brock Purdy around quarterback 10 in Dynasty for the last year or so. So Daniel Jones, who has 2 top 12 finishes under his belt when he was with the Giants. Yes, that's crazy to say, but he did. And so Daniel Jones now has actual weapons here in Indianapolis. What does the guy have to actually do? I think that he needs that contract. Once he gets that contract, then his liquidity will become higher. Because right now, I'm telling you, I cannot get anything more than a second in my leagues for this guy still. It's insane to me. But the fact is, Anthony Richardson, yes, is still right behind him in the pecking order on the Colts. And so, yeah, we're still going out trying to buy Daniel Jones if we can. If we can get him for less than a first, I like it. All right. I'm not selling him for less than a first though. I want to use him in a package to upgrade at another position. I want to get at least a first, if not more. It all depends on my QB room, right? If I'm in a league where he was my 3rd quarterback going into the season, well, then I'm probably hanging on to him. But if he was my 4th or 5th quarterback, what he was in most of my leagues, dude, there's no reason to just hang on to him and just flip one of the other quarterbacks right now, because I am all in on Daniel Jones. He is this year's Sam Darnold. 2 years ago was Baker Mayfield. This guy, it's comeback player of the year, whatever you want to call it. Right now, guy's QB4, okay? Just give him his props when they're due, all right? Now, following up on Daniel Jones, let's talk some Jonathan Taylor. This guy, I don't need to be the one to tell you, because everybody else is telling you already they're calling him this year's Saquon, this year's league winner already. And it's hard to argue against it. Like, with the success of Daniel Jones and the way he's able to run this offense, Jonathan Taylor is seeing better lanes. He is just running like a man possessed. He is out for blood. And so if you can go out and acquire Jonathan Taylor right now for a 1st and 2nd, I would do so. 2 firsts, I would. Depends if you got a lot of firsts ready to throw away. This guy, though, he can vault you from say you're 2-1, he can vault you up into being one of the top 3 teams in your league. All right. So it all depends where you're sitting in your league. Don't go trading for him if you're in the bottom half of the league. That's not what we're talking about. This is a power move. This is a move to win the title. This is one that you make not only to put you over the top, but to prevent others from getting him. So again, it depends on who owns Jonathan Taylor in your league. If a contender already owns him, they are not getting rid of him, okay? You would have to pry him from their cold dead hands. And so that's where we're at on Jonathan Taylor. But we've got more Colts to talk about. And yes, we're going to mention Michael Pittman and Josh Downs. These guys both are benefiting from Daniel Jones' good play. Michael Pittman's right now sitting at wide receiver 13. Josh Downs ready to get some more action. It's tough when you've got Jonathan Taylor, and I'm not even mentioning Tyler Warren here, but Michael Pittman is playing solid. Josh Downs will start getting a few more targets. He had 8 targets in week 2, only 3 targets in week 1 and week 3, but I expect those numbers to rise. I think that Josh Downs is slightly a better route runner than Michael Pittman. I've always liked Michael Pittman, the player, just not the situation. And right now with Daniel Jones there, he's elevated Michael Pittman. Like you can see there, wide receiver 13 status. He's ahead of a lot of receivers out there that I would, consider going after, because a lot of people got burned by Michael Pittman over the last couple of years, so his price is dirt cheap. I'm not saying I'm necessarily going and throwing a first at him. He is 27 years old, but he does have the contract, and which I think Daniel Jones will get the contract, so they're probably going to be together for the next couple of seasons. And so what's going on here in Indy, some of you out there like Best Ball Bruni had him on the show, and he was in on the Colts offense as the offense to go out and acquire this offseason as the offense that would outperform their ADP the most. And so far we are seeing it with everyone other than Josh Downs, and Josh Downs will get his, and it will be soon. So Michael Pittman, I'm not going over my skis in on. Like, I'm not doing more than a first. If you got a late first, I don't know. I'd still try and get him for a second. I don't know about a first rounder right now for a Michael Pittman. There's a lot of other ways to use your first round picks. I don't know that I want to do it right now in week 3. I want to hang on to it and see what happens down the road, because I do want to see that Daniel Jones gets this contract. He has a bad week this week, and then next week, whatever, then it's a different story. But right now, here and now, on September 25th of 2025, I'm liking the way that the Colts offense is going. Hell, everybody that owns a Colt player is loving it. So, yes, Michael Pittman. Josh Downs would be the guy to buy, though, because you could probably get him for a second. And I think that he is not definitely going to sit at wide receiver 72 for the rest of this season. Not the way that this offense is rolling right now. All right. Other guys that you can scoop up possibly now in dynasty leagues, these two should have been owned already. And one starting out is Oronde Gadsden with the LA Chargers. So Oronde Gadsden, drafted out of Syracuse, has a tight end, has a wide receiver body, 6'5", 236. Okay, a big wide receiver body. But his dad was a wide receiver for a number of years with the Dolphins. So he's got that NFL pedigree. I love this guy. I got him in a bunch of leagues super late. But now is the time where you can use him to flip him to maybe upgrade at another position. Okay, here's the problem with a young, flashy tight end. All right, we've seen it from Chigokaku. Last year, we've seen it from, who was it, Daniel Bollinger. These guys all have one good week, and then they end up turning into Isaiah Likely, right? So you got to sell them when they're hot. Otherwise, next week, Oronde Gadsden goes out there and has 1 catch for 3 yards, and people forget about him already. But right now, September 25th, he is on the minds of fantasy players, because last week he went out there and he had a solid 5 catches for 46 yards on 7 targets. That is for a debut. Now, he was a healthy scratch first 2 weeks, so that's why I'm bringing it up, because this was his actual first game. Those are monster numbers, especially when you consider the fact that he's got Quentin Johnston, Keenan Allen, and Ladd McConkey to fight with targets for. So The Chargers are throwing the ball more than everybody expected. They're going to continue to throw the ball more than expected. As long as Gadsden can stay ahead of Tyler Conklin and Will Dissly, Gadsden's going to end up having a solid season. Now, does he finish top 5? Absolutely not. There's too much other targets there. And that's why I'm thinking you flip Gadsden for, get Hunter Henry and a third or something, so that next year you can use that third and buy another tight end like this, right? Because Hunter Henry, I know, is going to be getting targets. I don't know that Oronde Gadsden is going to continue to get these targets all season long. But Hunter Henry, man, he's the number one target for Drake May. All right, and it showed last week. And I love it because he's the dude that I predicted could come out of nowhere and have a top 5 tight end season. I really was going over my skis on that one, but hey, he's looking good so far. So is Oronde Gadsden. Now, what do we got here? Borsdman. I traded Turpin and Johnston for JJ. Is that a good trade? Well, I hope you're not saying Justin Jefferson, because if that was the deal, I don't even know why. If you need to ask me that, then I don't know, because that's just insane if it was for Justin Jefferson. Now, if it was for J.J. McCarthy, that's another story. But even J.J. McCarthy, that's still a huge win. I mean, Quentin Johnston back from the dead. We just talked about the Chargers here with Oronde Gadsden. He's become that deep ball threat that the Chargers drafted and hoped for. Now, they went ahead and drafted 2 more receivers this year because they didn't believe in Quentin Johnston. But obviously, the drafting of Trey Harris and the drafting of Keenan Lambert-Smith has woken up something and lit a fire under this kid's ass, and Quentin Johnston is balling right now. He just got traded for a second rounder in my Dynasty Land League. Okay, that's a fair price. But if you're getting J.J. McCarthy, I don't know. I mean, if it's Justin Jefferson, that's just retarded. But even J.J. McCarthy, dynasty-wise, J.J. McCarthy is still the better long-term bet than Quentin Johnston. McCarthy's going to be the guy. I know that Wentz looked decent last week, but that was really the Minnesota defense that won that game last week. And so, yeah, I still like J.J. McCarthy. If you can buy low on J.J. McCarthy, I'm all for it. And so, to me, I think this is buying low, because I'm not buying Quentin Johnston and expecting to have him become anything more than my last flex guy. If I have Quentin Johnston, I want to either have him in my lineup right now as my last flex guy, or I want to deal him away while he's hot right now, because Keenan Allen's going to get banged up at some point this year, and Ladd McConkey's going to come back on. Ladd McConkey's actually the guy that you want to be buying in this offense right now, because he's underperformed. And so that leads to panic in some managers' minds. And it was Jefferson, because my league has punt returns. Okay, well, that's a little different. That's important, but still, I don't know if is this a redraft league? Even so, I can't imagine Turpin. I mean, I guess it depends on what do you get a point for every 10 punt return yards? So punt return yards are equal to receiving yards. I guess that's something. Either way, dude, even if it's a point for every 10 yards, getting Justin Jefferson is a massive steal here. If Jefferson's going for that, I need to go look in my leagues as soon as we're done airing this, because, yeah, if the panic is in on Justin Jefferson, dude, I am going after it right now. I know that Jefferson's only averaging about 12 points per game. He has never he has never gone below, I think, 12 or 1,300 yards in a season. Like the guy's going to finish with monster numbers. You got Jordan Addison coming back this week. That will draw some attention off of Jefferson. Yeah, he's gonna bounce back and bounce back hard. So, yeah, go out there and kick the tires on your Justin Jefferson owners in your leagues as well, for sure. Great deal for you, Boardman. I don't want to be condescending that your league mate was an idiot or anything, because yeah, it could be that he was the CeeDee Lamb owner or something. I don't know, but to me, Turpin and Johnson, like, that just isn't going to get it done for Justin Jefferson. All right. Maybe for Ladd McConkey, okay, that I could, all right, that I could understand. Okay. Now I lost my track. Woody Marks, yes, let's talk Woody Marks. So the Houston offense has been, underwhelming, and that's why they are 0-3. And so slowly but surely, if you look at the snap share here, 11%, 27%, 48% last week. Woody Marks is slowly taking over this backfield. I don't mean a complete takeover where he's getting 80% of the work, because Nick Chubb still will get some work while he's healthy. But you all remember Bucky Irving last year, right? Bucky Irving, 4th round pick, ran a 4.6. Yeah. All good, Boardman. Keep it up. Good work. Woody Marks, similar to Bucky Irving, 4th round draft pick, ran a 4.6 at the combine. Stock fell, but he's a playmaker. And the Houston Texans recognize that. And with Joe Mixon's injury, which likely is, to me, seeming like he's going to be out the whole season, and Nick Chubb, old man Chubb, he's not going to be able to hold up the whole season if he's getting, 15 plus handoffs a week. And the Texans need these playmakers out there. Like, the rookie receivers obviously haven't stepped up to what they had hoped, at least immediately. Christian Kirk was banged up. And so I just want you to be aware, if you can go out and acquire Woody Marks for cheap, because he still is cheap right now, go and do it. I think you could still get him for a 3rd right now. Maybe the owner's going to demand a 2nd, then I wouldn't do it. But if you can get him for a 3rd right now, go out there and grab Woody Marks. Or more likely, the best way to acquire him isn't straight up. Because if you go straight up for it, then the owner's going to be like, nah, man, I like him. It's like my Brashard Smith shares. I got Brashard Smith everywhere, right? Somebody comes at me for Brashard Smith one-on-one. Like, I'm going to be like, nah, dude, you can keep your 3rd. But if they throw Brashard Smith onto the back end of a deal and it's a higher-end player, I'll be more willing to get rid of my Brashard Smith shares. Same with Woody Marks. Even though I'm talking him up here, I'm still going to be more willing to give him up on the backside of a deal if I'm acquiring a higher-end asset. So that's what I mean. Use this snap share to your advantage one way or the other, whether you're throwing him in to acquire yourself, to, what's a deal I can come up with. So I like buying Ladd McConkey right now, who's a receiver that's risen probably too much. Okay, I'll use... I love Ibuka, but I'll use him as an example, right? Emeka Ibuka, and you get Ladd McConkey, Woody Marks in a 2nd right now, okay? That's a deal I could definitely consider buying into, because Ladd McConkey and Emeka Ibuka are probably going to perform pretty similar the rest of their careers, all right? That's just my look at it, and I love Ibuka. But if you can get a nice dart throw like Woody Marks, who could take over this backfield pretty similarly to the way that Bucky Irving did last year, and get a 2nd thrown in, I might consider that, all right? So that's just some way and shape and form that you can use Woody Marks to your advantage right now. All right. Finally, want to discuss Kansas City Chiefs wide receiver room. So we're going to start with Tyquan Thornton, who's been Pat Mahomes' guy the last couple of weeks. As you can see here, last week, 9 targets, 5 for 71 and a touchdown. Week before, he had that late touchdown against the Eagles. Just 2 catches that week. But you can see he's developing a little bit of trust here. His snap share is right there, over 70%. So that's solid. What I'm getting at is I think that Thornton, even with Rashee Rice coming back, he could still be carving out a decent role here. Now, I know Xavier Worthy coming back will, kind of take a hit on it, but if he's available on your waivers, and he probably has been scooped up everywhere already, but if you could get him thrown into the back end of the deal, I don't mind it. Again, if you throw him into your lineup as your last flex guy, you could do worse right now. And you still have a couple weeks here where we're waiting for Rashee Rice to return in week 7, so we still got weeks 4, 5, 6, 3 weeks here for Thornton to perform at a high level. Juju Smith-Schuster hasn't been anything impressive. He's his normal 4 for 55 every week. And then you have Xavier Worthy and his injuries. Now, I think that they play different roles. I think that Tyquan Thornton is the deep ball threat, and as long as he can hang on to the ball, unlike MVS was not able to hang on to the ball, Mahomes is going to give him a couple deep shots every week. All right, and he's younger. He's much quicker, it seems, than Hollywood Brown right now, and so Thornton is getting his opportunity. Much better opportunity than what he had in New England when he was taken in the 2nd round by the Patriots. So I'm not going out again and just throwing a 2nd rounder straight up for Tyquan Thornton. He's a dude that you get thrown in on the back end of a deal to help your team in the immediate future. Now, while we're on the Chiefs, let's not forget about Rashee Rice and the fact that this may be your last opportunity to scoop him up for a decent price. I just saw him go in a 1 quarterback league for an insane deal, and I won't mention that because that was just, dude got Ashingenti in a 1st for Rice in a 2nd, and that's 1 quarterback. And the dude's team that acquired Rice wasn't very good. So, yeah, the Rashee Rice hype train is starting. So make sure you go out and kick the tires immediately if you are considering wanting Rashee Rice. I think that rebuild teams are the ideal targets for Rashee Rice. If you have a performing wide receiver, someone who's overperforming, you could even flip Egbuka for Rice and something probably right now. That's what I would do if I was rebuilding and you wanted to flip and you're just trying to accumulate value right now. Because I don't know that Egbuka's value can get any higher. Like, even with Mike Evans going out this week, like, literally, how high is this guy Egbuka going to go? Because the problem with Egbuka and his value getting so high is he's never going to be a 10-plus target a week player, okay? So that's where he can't elevate into the Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson, CeeDee Lamb realm, okay? And he's already up to wide receiver 8 right now in Dynasty. So it's really hard for me to see him getting any higher right now. But Rashee Rice, on the other hand, he does have the opportunity to get up to 10-plus targets a week. We know that role that he had when he was healthy last season, so we can see that happening. And so that's my final guy that I wanted to speak about today. And when we're looking at next week, some guys to watch for, you're going to have those Chiefs highlighted against the Ravens. You got a big matchup there for the late game on Sunday afternoon. You've got Philly, Tampa as a noon matchup that's huge. Trey Benson tonight. Pay attention. But also in that game, I think this could be Kenny Walker's breakout. Okay, he's got a great opportunity here. He's kind of slid under the radar with Zach Charbonnet's injury last week. Walker had an okay performance, but it was against the Saints, so he didn't play much in the second half. Now tonight, I think he could really get it done and blow up. So Kenny Walker's somebody I would also try and go out and acquire now before he blows up tonight on Thursday Night Football. Sunday night, you've got the Packers in a smash matchup against the Cowboys. They're going to be angry. They're going to be mad. They're going to look to blow out the Cowboys. Should be a big game for Josh Jacobs. So if you want to go and get Josh Jacobs, you got to do it now. All right. And then Monday night, we're going to have the Broncos and the Bengals. Okay, so the Bengals with an opportunity to bounce back. Jake Browning with his chance. But the Broncos defense is pretty solid, and they got some good corners. I think it's going to be another rough ride for Jake Browning. But it's a great opportunity for Bo Nix to show up. I also want to see how they deploy R.J. Harvey this week. R.J. Harvey's somebody who you could possibly even get for a second for somebody who's been frustrated with Harvey's performance so far. So if you want R.J. Harvey, you got to get him now because it's Monday Night Football. If he does well, if he has one big touchdown run, boom, value's back to a first plus for Harvey. So those running backs are the main guys I'm talking about. It's hard to deal for running backs, especially with all the attrition so far. But Kenny Walker, Trey Benson, Josh Jacobs, R.J. Harvey, guys to look for and go out and try and get right now. That's where I'm at. And go out and buy those Bengals and Jaguars wide receivers too. Ooh, man, this is a smash opportunity for them. The Bengals are playing in a big game. If T. Higgins can show up, because there's going to be concentration from Patrick Surtain on Jamar Chase. T. Higgins has a great opportunity this week. Everybody's scared. They're all worried. But him and Jake Browning, they're going to be playing the whole rest of the season together. I think Jake Browning's going to figure it out. All right? I don't know why. But if you can get T. Higgins for a second plus something, that's the route I would go. Don't pay a first for him. He's a little older now. Just try and get a second plus something. Use it that route to get T. Higgins. Travis Hunter, definite buy. All right? You have to understand, the Jaguars paid so much for this guy to win ball games. They're 2-1. Trevor Lawrence has looked like ass so far. Once he bounces back, gets the Liam Cohen system down a little bit, Travis Hunter doesn't have to play corner because their starting corner is injured. Okay, that's why Hunter is playing that position, because he can. All right. Once their corner is back, Hunter's going to go back to the offense more, and he's going to start putting up bigger numbers. All right. He did have the one catch for 21 yards last week, so when he did get the ball, he did something with it. All right. It's not like he all of a sudden lost this talent that made him the number 2 overall pick and the Heisman Trophy winner last season. Go out there in your leagues and see what you have to pay for Travis Hunter. Okay, he could easily be somebody that the owner is super frustrated on, and so that's a dude I am willing to go out, not pay full freight. I just want to kick the tires on. All right, so that's all I got for you today, folks. We'll be back tonight with a trade show. Lots of action going on this week. Love it all, and I want to remind you all to never stop working.